Welcome, crew. You have chosen to embark on a mission of faith.
We will be exploring the truths of God's Word, so come along.
Hebrews 11:17. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son. Let's take a look at Abraham's amazing faith.
Let's go!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! Somewhere in outer space, God has prepared a place for those who trust Him and believe. He's coming back again, although we know not when. The countdown's getting lower every day.
Isaac was the joy of his parents' heart. They had waited for him for years and years after he was promised by God. Abraham knew that little Isaac was God's gift, and that through Isaac and his children, God would bring about his wonderful plan of salvation. God had given a commandment to Abraham. Take your only son, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering. Abraham knew he must obey God. To obey meant that he must believe and trust the Lord completely, though he didn't understand. Abraham, Isaac, and the servant started off for the land of Moriah. On the third day they came to the land of Moriah, the place of sacrifice. Stay here with the donkeys, Abraham told his servants, while the boy and I go up to the mountain and worship. We will come back to you. What he told his servants makes us know that he truly believed God intended for Isaac to die, and that he just as truly believed that God would raise him from the dead, and they both would return. Abraham then tied Isaac's hands and legs, and his son lay on the altar on top of the wood. Abraham took the knife and lifted it up to slay him on the altar. But the knife never touched Isaac. Abraham had obeyed God, for God had told him to offer Isaac for a sacrifice. But God stepped in with further directions for Abraham. In that same instance, Abraham noticed a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. So they took the ram and sacrificed it instead of Isaac.
God promised to make Abraham a great nation. Many years later, he fulfilled that promise by giving him Isaac. Sometime after that, God came to Abraham and said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. The Bible doesn't record Abraham asking God any question after that. It just says in the next verse that Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac and his son, and they went to the land of Moriah. As Abraham left, I don't know, the Bible doesn't tell us what was going through Abraham's mind, but I can only imagine what Abraham was thinking, because God had promised this son, and now God was asking for him to be killed. And how was God going to fulfill his promise? In Hebrews, it tells us that Abraham thought that he may bring him back from the dead. But Abraham had the faith in God to believe that God was going to keep his word. And he took Isaac to that mountain, and he laid him on an altar, and he was ready to sacrifice. He was ready to give up the one thing in his life that probably meant the most to him. And he was willing to do that because of his faith in God. Romans 12:1 says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. God's not asking us to kill our firstborn or anybody in our family. God says, listen, as a Christian, I want you to sacrifice your life. I want you to give it to me. And I want you to do what I have prepared for you to do. And it takes a lot of faith to just say, okay, God, I don't know what you want, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to put you first in my life. For Abraham, God prepared a substitute in the form of a ram. And God tells us many times in the scriptures, listen, if you'll serve me, if you put me first in your life, I'll bless you. and I'll give you things that you can't even imagine. And it's not about the things that God's going to give you and the things that God's going to reward you with. It's about putting God first in your life. God says, I just need you to have faith, to trust me, and just obey in everything that I tell you to do.
Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. Doing exactly what the Lord commands, doing it happily. Action is the key, do it immediately. Joy you will receive. Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe.